Chapter 120 Battle Against the Madman. HMPH. Shen Tehong let out a cold snort, not even looking at his signing anymore, and directly returned to his own camp. Yun Baishan did the same. He still smiled lightly and freely. This time with Kang Chon in the battle, he did not have any worries. What he was looking forward to now was Zhongli's dumbfounded expression later. Soon after, a youth came out from Shen Teji's camp, and it was none other than Shen Tefeng. He stood in the middle of the field, looking at the opposite Yun sister, with a face full of arrogance. In his opinion, the candidate prepared by the Yun family this time was only one of the Yun sisters. He had absolute certainty of victory. Shen Tefeng at this moment seemed to have imagined the scene of the entire audience cheering for him later. The corners of his mouth couldn't help but reveal a hint of a cocky smile. Brother Baishan, is your Yun family's candidate this time water ballad girl or red dance girl? The city lord then smiled and looked over to the Yun family's side. The city lord will know later. Yun Baishan smiled mysteriously. Then his eyes looked towards Kang Chon. Instantly, the Cloud family and others around Kang Chon stepped aside. Revealing Kang Chon's face, he smiled blandly and walked over to Shen Tefeng, looking at him coldly. Who is this person? At this instant, the gazes of everyone present converged. Immediately, however, everyone knew Kang Chon's identity, as many of the people in the crowd knew Kang Chon, such as Zhou Yunji and Zhou Chanshu from the Zhou family, who had also come to watch the battle, as well as Shen Tepeng from the Shen Te family, and Zhong Tianhao and Zhong Kixin from the Zhong family. Overlord. As a result, an uproar rose in the arena. No one had thought that the Yun family had invited Kang Chon here. This was too shameless. Although the three families meeting martial arts did not restrict foreign aid, the three families had always seldom looked for foreign aid, and this foreign aid was still so powerful. It was simply cheating. Shen Tehong grimaced, then revealed a bitter smile. This Yun Baishan even invited Kang Chon. This was out of his expectation. Zhong Clan's advocate, Zhong Lai, was also staring at Kang Chon in the arena with a gloomy face. A trace of killing intent flashed under his eyes. It was just a flash, and no one noticed. As for the field, Shen Tefeng stared at Kang Chon in front of him with a face full of grief and indignation. For a moment, he did not know how to make a move, or perhaps he did not dare to make a move. You'd better admit defeat. Kang Chon looked at the opposite Shen Tefeng and said indifferently, "Don't you bully people too much." When Shen Tefeng heard this, he immediately glared at Kang Chon in annoyance. Outside the arena, the crowd looked at the first match below with incomparable astonishment. No one could have imagined that it was Kang Chon who had entered the battle instead of the Yun family, and that the Shen Te family had suffered a mute loss this time. Everyone secretly laughed. At the same time, looking at the field, Shen Tefeng's gaze was filled with sympathy. They were wondering if this kid could catch a move from Kang Chon. On the other side, the Shen Te family's group of people had dark faces, each of them glaring at the opposite Yun family's group of people through gritted teeth. The Yun family's crowd, on the other hand, heatedly laughed and raised their heads to ignore them. The Yun family is too shameless, Shen Tepeng said with a black face. Even if he was replaced on the field, he was not Kang Chon's opponent. Not to mention that Shen Tefeng himself was Kang Chon's defeated opponent. If he wasn't concerned about his face, he would have told Shen Tefeng to surrender and come back. Forget it. Keep watching. Hopefully this blow will make Fenga lose his arrogant character. Shen Tehong's face also did not look good, but instead, there was a glimmer of hope in the bottom of his heart, hoping that by using this battle, he could change Shen Tefeng's arrogant character and let him know what it was like to be outside of the crowd and outside of the sky. If that's really the case, then this time, even if we lose the benefits of the workshop market, it's still worth it. Shen Tepeng's eyes lit up at his words. If Shen Tefeng could really use this battle to change his arrogant character, then he, the Shen Te family, would have to thank the Yun family more instead. Not far away, the crowd of the Zhong family looked expressionlessly at the two men facing each other in the field, not knowing what they were thinking, as if they were not the least bit displeased to see Kang Chon participating in the battle on behalf of the Yun family. Not to talk about the mood of the crowd outside the field. At this moment, Kang Chon was full of impatience as he looked at the opposite side of Shen Tefeng. This guy had been glaring viciously at himself from the start, yet he never dared to make a move. If it wasn't for the fact that he had a good impression of Shen Tefeng of the Shenta family, and for the sake of those 3 extremely high-grade spirit stones, he would have punched Shen Tefeng away long ago. "Are you moving or not?" Kang Chon frowned and urged again. On the opposite side, Shen Tefeng had a red face, and a trace of jealousy, resentment, anger, and grief flashed in his eyes. He wanted to punch Kang Chon to death, but whenever he wanted to do so, the scene of being sent flying by Kang Chon's chi last time couldn't help but appear in his mind. And instantly, his entire body lost all its strength and couldn't raise a single ounce of fighting spirit. Facing Kang Chon, Shen Tefeng had created a heart demon. He was unable to raise his true essence in Kang Chon's face paint. This is entirely the last time he was hit too heavy, especially for his kind of arrogant people. Kang Chon's domineering figure in his heart for a long time cannot forget. Every time he faces Kang Chon, his body involuntarily trembled. This had already prolonged into an instinctive critical fear. "Since you won't make a move, then don't blame me for being impolite, eh?" Just when Kang Chon was impatient and ready to make the first move, a sharp sword-light ****** came. And before the person arrived, the incomparably powerful sword momentum had already pounced on his face. At that instant, the flying swords of everyone on the field involuntarily trembled. As soon as this powerful sword momentum appeared, the sky suddenly changed color. A vast pressure came from the sky, and the entire Yunlan mountain seemed to have been stirred. This scene caused several Yuanying stage this in the field to vibrate. All of them looked unbelievably at the messy-haired youth who came with a sword. "It's him!" Everyone around the city lord and the others were filled with shock as they looked at the visitor. Yun Baishan frowned, a hint of surprise flashing through his eyes before he finally gave a soft sigh. Zhonglai looked at the visitor coldly, the corner of his mouth pulling up a wry smile. Shen Tehong looked at the visitor, his face full of tears and laughter as he said to Shen Tepeng at the side, "Didn't Jia leave Demon Yuan City today? How did he appear here? And how does he know the location of the 3 families meeting?" The person who came was none other than Shen Teji, the mad warrior amongst the 7 warriors of the Great Tang Dynasty. Shen Tepeng smiled bitterly and shook his head. "I don't know. No one told him the location of the 3 families' martial arts. How did he know? There won't be any changes this time, right? Later on, family master. Do you want to make a move to restrain him? Let's talk about it later." Shen Tehong pondered for a while and said. At this time, Shen Teji had already descended on the field, standing in a 3-legged stance with Kang Chon and Shen Tefeng. Shen Tefeng looked at the sudden arrival of Shen Teji. His face couldn't help but become hideous, his eyes filled with killing intent. Kang Chon coldly looked at Shen Teji on the opposite side. A trace of surprise flashed in his eyes. Seeing this guy once again, he found that the sword momentum on this person was even more powerful. Obviously, in this year, Shen Teji's cultivation had likewise enhanced a lot. Even Kang Chon had already felt a dangerous aura on Shen Teji's body, which indicated that the other party already had the strength to threaten him. What a hustle and bustle! Shen Teji opened his head and looked around, a hint of a low voice coming out of his mouth. His disheveled hair flew about, looking like a madman as he kept muttering to himself with his mouth. "Jiana, didn't you say you were going to welcome Spring House? Why did you come here?" "When did I say that? Right? I did say that. I got lost at Jian-san. It's all because you're pointing the wrong way." pointing the wrong way. I didn't point the way at all. Then who pointed the way? It was me, GNC. An ice-cold voice came out from Shen Taji's mouth. Then Shen Taji's entire person seemed to have changed, as if he had become a different person. A breath of indifference to the extreme emanated out, driving a powerful sword momentum towards Kang Chon to suppress him. Sword 1. Shen Taji slowly drew out the longsword behind his back and pointed it towards Kang Chon, a hint of fire flashing through his icy eyes. Kang Chon instantly frowned as he felt a powerful aura locking him down. As Shen Taji's words fell, the winds and clouds in the sky changed, and a matchless sword aura shot straight up into the clouds, and then turned into a blazing sword aura that came towards Kang Chon *********. Break the sky. Facing the sudden attack, Kang Chon was not anxious. A black long knife appeared in his hand, mobilizing 30% of the true essence in his body to pour it in. At that moment, the black long blade shone brightly, and 100 feet long blade on came across the sky to meet the blazing sword on. With a shocking roar, the two powerful energies collided in the sky. Instantly the sword aura raged. The blade aura shattered the air, and boundless energy swept across the entire venue. Shen Tefeng cried out miserably, and was sent flying out by the aftershocks of these two powerful forces. Fortunately, he was caught in time by Shen Tehong. Otherwise he would have fallen under the cliff. Looking at the field again, Kang Chon and Shen Te definitely sparred after a blow. Both sides were actually indistinguishable. The two were still fiercely against each other. The two of them's chi was constantly colliding in the field, causing the entire space to tremble. The surrounding people were all in awe. The strength of these two people was too powerful. It was hard to find an enemy among their peers. No wonder they were able to boast of the young generation of the Great Tang cultivation sector. Several Yuanying stage powerhouses were secretly nodding their heads. When they were at this age, they were 100,000 miles behind both Kang Chon and Shen Taji. Everyone revealed a look of excitement and thrill. No one had expected that the three families' martial arts would see this kind of competition between peak youth powerhouses. This would allow them to have a blessing for their eyes. Jiana. In the crowd's excited excitement, Shen Taji in the field once again made a move. The long sword in his hand produced a matchless sword chi. Thick true essence erupted within the body of the sword. Blazing light illuminated the sky and the earth, causing the sun in the sky to be eclipsed. Kang Chon immediately looked grave, personally facing Shen Taji's sword moves. He only found out this person's terrifying. No wonder he can be ranked alongside Lei Yun, and be called as the strongest, two of the 7 warriors of the Great Tang Dynasty. This Shen Taji definitely lived up to his name. He had the strength. Break the sky. Not allowing Kang Chon to continue to think more, he mobilized 70% of his entire body's true essence. This time, all of which was poured into the black long blade. At that instant, the black long blade erupted with incomparably blazing light, as if there was a small sun hidden within it. The piercing light was so dazzling that the crowd outside the arena unconsciously covered their eyes. Come on! Kang Chon let out a low shout. The long black blade in his hand was raised high up and finally slashed at Shen Taji. He was the first to strike after him. His unrivaled domineering aura caused everyone to gasp in amazement. Shen Taji remained incomparably cold. His icy eyes were like swords, emitting a palpitatingly powerful aura. As Kang Chon slashed out a radiant blade, the longsword in his hand also shot out a blazing sword aura, as if it was tearing through space, instantly appearing in front of Kang Chon, fiercely slamming into Kang Chon's blade aura. Instantly, a shocking explosion erupted in the sky once again. This time, the aftermath was so strong that it destroyed the surrounding earth. And the crowd clearly watched as a huge crack appeared on the ground in the field, crawling all around like a spider's web. Is this the strength of the Great Tang 7 and the 3 kings of Fendu? Everyone looked at this scene in shock. The two people in the field were too powerful. They were simply comparable to the older generation of experts. It was hard for them to imagine how they possessed such powerful cultivation at such an age. Sword 3. After the second move, Kang Chon and Shen Taji were still indistinguishable. Shen Taji was a little crazy this time. He roared out and erupted an even more powerful sword momentum. As if a hurricane swept across the entire venue, all the flying sand and stones were swept up and finally converged on top of Shen Taji's sword energy, forming an unrivaled torrent that rushed towards Kang Chon.